When asked this question, what will we do when there's nothing left to do, I had to think about some photos I saw recently. And it was about Bitcoin mining. And now I think of my grandparents, and I would try to explain to my grandparents what Bitcoin mining is. Maybe some of you know. It's people working around computers trying to produce Bitcoins, which is something people use to pay instead of money. So imagine my grandparents trying to understand this, and then we know how difficult it is to answer this question, what we would do if there's nothing left to do. I think we can't. That's what I want to say first, because I think that's pretty important to keep in mind that from our position today, we cannot know how circumstances will change and what might be possible one day and what might be needed. This leads me to my second point, because there was a lot about automation. From my point of view, that's nothing either good or bad. It depends on the way it is used. Because if we look at, for example, the places where Amazon people have to grab things out of huge places to put it into some packages to be sent wherever, then they get a fine if they use their own head to make this work more efficient, because there's a computer looking at the ways these people are going. So this is definitely not an improvement of how we earn our money we maybe need. But do we need money? So I guess I was invited to talk here because I'm not doing any job. But what is this? What could a job be? And isn't it a job to be here if I'm getting paid for standing here? Or isn't it a job because I would stand here even if I were not paid? So what the hell could a job be? But let's talk about what I'm doing. I'm an activist. The photo you can see here is me sitting on a tripod. That's like a wooden construction to block facilities. In this case, we are blocking the German uranium enrichment factory, which is located in Gronau in Münsterland. And I chose this photo to start because this is typical for the stuff I'm doing, which doesn't mean that I'm only doing blockades every day. Of course, I'm doing research, I'm writing leaflets, I'm handing out flyers, I'm sending out press releases, whatever. But that's not what I want to talk about today. What I want to focus on is what I'm calling direct action. Why is it direct? Because I'm not addressing any politician out there wherever. I'm trying to disturb what is really going on my nerve. And in this case, that is the existence of the uranium enrichment in Germany. I don't know if you're familiar with the debate about nuclear power in Germany, so let me try to summarize it shortly. There was a so-called phase-out, a law that says that the operating nuclear power stations should be closed down by 2022, approximately. This was the answer to a strong anti-nuclear movement, one of the biggest social movements Germany has ever experienced. One of the most militant social movements Germany has ever experienced. In my opinion, one of the reasons why this movement was successful, at least in parts. There was this so-called phase-out, and then Angela Merkel decided to end this phase-out. So we have the phase-out of phase-out. And people got mad, and then Fukushima happened, and people got even more mad, and then there was a decision that this so-called phase-out is somehow valid again. So right now we have the situation that there are still 8 nuclear power stations running that are set to be closed down till 2022. But we still have the processing. So there is uranium enrichment in Germany, and that is this facility in Gronau, and it's not part of this so-called phase-out. And there's another facility that is producing the fuel, and both of these are not part of the phase-out, and both are pretty huge. They are approximately producing 10% of world's enriched uranium. So that's why we're opposing it, and we're using direct action, as I said before. Direct action, in contrast to demonstrations like this one, try to disturb, as I said before, what is going on our nerves. So we're blocking the power stations. We're directly sitting in front of the door, and we're making the people leave and not go to work. Now it's coming back to our question. Who is the one working? Is it those people building the concrete these barrels are filled with to put their arms in and lock on there? Or is it the people running the nuclear power station? Or is it both? One being paid and one doing it because they really feel the urgent need to do so. We heard before in one of the talks that you should never allow your political work to be influenced by your personal opinion. I think that's part of the problem. If we would all only do what we really consider to be the right thing, many things would not have happened. So in my opinion, it's the other way around. It's really good to be disobedient, and I think that's something we should all learn and practice. This type of direct action I'm talking about, and I'm like doing a lot, is always following the same pattern, let's say. So first there's a normality, and I dislike this normality, and then I need a way to disturb it. In this case, it's pretty easy. There's one road leading there, and we're sitting on this road. And in this moment, there's something non-normal. And only because we have this moment of something being not normal, people are talking about it. That's what I mean by direct action, that I cause something that is irritating, and then afterwards I do have the possibility to bring my arguments. And of course, never ever any lock-on action is good that is not explained afterwards. Definitely the leaflet and the press release and whatever is part of these actions. Just some further photos of actions we did to give you an impression. Here we put up a banner. You can try to guess where we put it up. I can show you. This is one of the huge transatlantic container ships that is regularly transporting radioactive material. And we put up a banner because once there was a huge fire on this container ship, and they haven't made any of the surrounding fire safe. They didn't change any of the security methods they use. This we did is putting up trash in front of the uranium enrichment, because they produce a lot of trash, but they ignore it and they do not talk about it. So we thought we make it visible and we say, at least our trash is not radioactive, have fun with our trash. This is one of the lock-on actions. In this case, we are blocking the railway leading to the uranium enrichment. This is an information tour we did with a wooden boat, like a self-made wooden boat. And so we were like taking some tourists with us, taking school classes with us, and going via Neckar and Rhine and informing about nuclear transports. This is just 2 weeks ago. The people organizing this event might know that I've been off for 1 week. I think it was troubling for them to reach me because they couldn't. Because I was involved in this action where we blocked the train with uranium hexafluoride. And this is strongly connected to what we had before as well, because we heard about data security. And I was off not using my phone and not using my laptop, because this kind of action would not have been possible if we would have used our own laptops and smartphones in this area before. So what we had before about data security and looking what is like obvious where we are, what we're just doing is part of my daily work as an activist. I'm not only doing anti-nuclear work, you might have guessed so, and so I thought I'll just share some photos about, in this case, climate struggle. This is a blockade in the harbor of Hamburg, the coal power station. This is, I really like it, people destroying a GMO field, and it's announced. So it's people openly announcing that they will destroy the corn, and so they do. And at the moment, there's no GMO in Germany outside of any laboratories. And one of the actions that led to this decision is probably this kind of action, where people openly announced that there's a huge minority opposing GMO, but still all the decisions are pro-GMO, and so there's no other possibility than doing direct action and destroying this. This is from last year's struggle protest against AfD, Nationalist Party, you probably know. This is a protest against the military train, a lock-on action as well. This is the squatting of a tank, just for you to get some impressions of how different actions can be. And of course, when it comes to the question, what would we do when there's nothing left to do, I'd really like to answer that we would all sit around somewhere and read some good books, or do some juggling, or paint some buildings with colorful paintings or whatever, but I can't, because reality is different. What we see here is the try to make a graphic about capitalism as we have it nowadays. It's an adaptation of a picture that was made like 100 years ago by industrial workers of the world, syndicalist unionists, and a US network called Crime Think tried to adapt this to nowadays capitalism. And I know that you can't see it in detail because it's too small, but what I want to say with this picture is that there is people profiting from all the shit that is going on. And we cannot hope that if we only say, hey, this is shitty, they will end this, because they do have a personal interest to keep this system going. So the aim of what I try to reach with all the actions I'm doing is destroying this system. I do not want to be the privileged person at the top of the pyramid. I want to destroy this pyramid. And so anything I'm doing should keep to this idea. And of course, it's not always easy to see if some program, some initiative, some demonstration, whatever, is maybe improving or destroying the system, because it's not just easy to see who's the capitalist and who's the exploited and who's the excluded. But for my impression, it's helping us to understand how this system is functioning. One example I want to explain, maybe you can see it on the top, there's a guy putting some toxic water out of a canister out of his window. This guy doesn't fear any of the outcome of this poison in his surrounding. But there is outcome of this poison. At the top, there's none, but at the bottom of the pyramid, we can see the poison coming out and destroying a landscape and a slum or whatever. And I think that is how pollution works, that those who profit do not suffer the consequences. It's the same if we look at uranium mining. Those who profit from running the nuclear power stations do not live next to the mines, and they do not put the high-level radioactive waste into their bathroom. But they could, but they don't. And that's not a surprise. So coming back to the question that there's people profiting from this system, there's also people opposing the actions I'm doing. And so I think repression has to be part of what I'm telling you. This is the police pulling me down from this tripod construction I showed as a first picture. So it's not just accepted. It's not seen as a part of democratic free speech. It's ended by police. But that's the okay way. Many times it's not as okay as it looks here. This is still the okay way. This is police destroying a playground, even though it was squatted, and the people surrounding it and the families surrounding it wanted to save this playground. Now there's a parking site. This is police in a coal mine. It's lignite mining in Rhineland between Cologne and Aachen. There have been huge mass protests over the last years, and this is police responding to a person that is merely being in the mine. There's nothing more than being in the mine. This is police responding at G20 summit to people putting up a tent. This is G20 summit as well, police reacting on a demonstration. Apart from the police brutality, activists have to suffer from. The consequence is, in a lot of cases, being in court. What you see here is the court in Flensburg, opening up a special entrance for political activists to be able to search them. Search them even harder than if you would take a flight somewhere. And this is inside one of these buildings. Sometimes we can end these trials, but sometimes we're judged. As announced before, I've been to prison 2 times, both times for lock-on actions, locking myself onto a railway, stopping a military train and a nuclear train. And as I decided not to pay the fine I was sentenced to, I had to go to prison. Yesterday I was asked, what did I learn about Germany in prison? And I can tell you I learned what you probably learn in most prisons wherever you are on this planet. It's an illusion that prisons would solve any problem. And it's an illusion for us out here. No one in there in the prison really believes that this system is able to solve any of the conflicts where the people are in there. It's an illusion for us to believe that the state is caring for the order and that the state is caring for us and that you can hide problems if you just put a wall around. If you're interested in more details, I can tell you later, but that is definitely what I learned. I'm coming to the end, but what I wanted to mention is that all that I was talking about is still from a really privileged position. I'm talking as someone having a German passport, having white skin, and I have never experienced anything that is like war in my life. There are many, many people on this planet that could not act as I do, but that's one of the reasons why I do what I'm doing, because I want more people to be able to act at least a little bit more free. So what I want to end with is that we should break up borders, because in my opinion borders are one of the most disgusting things, hindering people from doing what they want to do. So I want to end with a photo of an action, just to show you that everyone can start to change this world anywhere and everywhere. And it's this action. It's the main station of Cologne. And people put up banners with balloons and just let them fly in the train station. And I think it's easy, but they were very, very right to do so. Thank you.